last election, you had some independent news outfits, Rebel News,
Yeah.
True North, Western Standard, Keean Bexte's Counter Signal. So we weren't as big as the regime media, but there was a counterforce. Tell me your thoughts on this trend of independent citizen journalism compared to the, well, I'm calling it the regime media.
Well, I think that the mainstream media, as they like to call themselves, traditional media, I think that they've created a market for alternative voices because they've been so unbalanced. I mean, I got into media back in the 1990s, and my boss at the time said that that was the mantra of media: to be fair, to be accurate, to be balanced. And I've seen precious little of that over the last number of years. But what happens is that the alternative media are now providing that balance, which is why I'm watching what has happened with this new internet regulation bill they have at the federal level, because that worries me. That worries me that that's really aimed at outfits like yours and True North and Western Standard and Counter Signal, to regulate them the same way the CRTC is regulated, or to deny the ability to get the kind of revenues and coverage that you otherwise would. And I think that what I've just gone through with the CBC demonstrates that you got to go to a second source when you read something in the mainstream media. It used to be the other way. It used to be you'd read something on alternative media and you'd go to mainstream media for validation. They've created an environment where now you have to question what's in the mainstream media and see if it's validated in alternative sources, which is why I'm of the view that we need to have as many independent media outlets as possible to make sure everybody's getting the full picture.
I'm glad you're paying attention to these, I call them censorship bills.
Yeah.
Through C-18, Trudeau just nuked access to Facebook and Instagram for independent media, for all media. I think he did huge damage. And C-11 regulates the internet as if we were broadcasters. This just popped into my mind because you and I knew each other before you were in politics, and so we would talk as commentators. But now you actually have the levers of power. Justin Trudeau is treating websites as if it's a federal jurisdiction. I don't know if it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really a broadcasting enterprise? I don't think the BNA Act contemplates Trudeau in Ottawa regulating websites.
Yeah.
I know the NDP, when they were in office, used all the levers of power. The left, when they get in office, they ransack the place. They pull every lever, even if it's a long shot. They use their political capital. I wonder if you, as Premier, with your new mandate, concerned about freedom of speech, which you always have been, might have a role in defending media freedom by blocking the feds. Do they really have jurisdiction? Maybe there's a constitutional challenge to what they're doing in C-11 and C-18 on charter grounds, but maybe on BNA Act grounds. How dare they regulate enterprises like that? Do you think that way? Do you think, all right, I'm going to do everything I can, push all the buttons I can, use our Justice Department, use our constitutional power to push back instead of just a slow retreat, which conservatives usually do, maybe to push back?
The question would be how to do it. So I could propose something, and I don't know if this would work, but it does seem to me that if there was some way of us creating an island in Alberta for broadcasters to be able to establish themselves here, and for us to be able to allow for private contracts to take place. So you could sign a deal with Facebook and you could sign a deal with Google, and your content would be covered. We have property and civil rights under the Charter of Rights or under the Constitution. Would that be a contract that we would be able to enforce? Now, would that mean that you'd be able to broadcast to the rest of the country? I don't know. But is there some way that we can create an environment here that would allow for more media companies to establish it? Because I talked to somebody who I think was a former colleague of yours at Sun, Mark Petrone, and he has already established an outfit in Florida because he wants the freedom of being able to operate in Florida and broadcast into Canada. So if he has to go all the way to Florida, why can't we keep people closer to home? Would we be able to do this in Alberta? I don't know the answer to that. At the moment, I'm dismayed to see that it's actually been some of the biggest media outlets who've been pushing this along. Yeah. I mean, Post Media was cheering it along. And so I have to see what kind of impact it's going to have. But clearly, having Google say that you're not going to be able to search for stories online. I mean, I get a morning media clippings. And when this came out, I said, how in the heck are we going to get media clippings in the morning if we're not able to use Google to search what is out there? So there's a real problem. And that is not in the best interest of the public. It's not in the best interest of consumers, not in the best interest of even accountability and oversight of government. So I'll see whether there is some kind of meeting of the minds with Facebook and Google, or if we're going to have to do more. But I'm looking for suggestions about what we might be able to do. I'm always prepared to challenge the federal government if they've stepped over the line in areas of our jurisdiction. I just need to do a little bit more work on that.